Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live, episode 5, titled Become. And I'm not gonna lie, I have to preface this one by letting you know my feelings are extremely mixed on the episode. I just clicked end on it. So these are my reaction and review things like right after watching it. And if you want to see my full reaction, it's out on Jerry Reacts. That being said, I am very torn on this episode, and I think this is going to be an evolving feeling that I have. So my thoughts are to give this to you live, like, fuck it, we'll do it live. You know what I mean? Like,
we'll do it live. Fuck it.
I'm thinking about doing this way right now, and then possibly coming back and doing another review later in the week. I'm really not sure how to feel about this episode, because if I'm going off of my emotions right now, I honestly didn't really like it. Like, I liked what they did. I really did. So hear me out. I'm not necessarily saying I hated this episode, because there was a lot I really liked. But I'm not sure I'm a fan of the way some things went down. But on paper, we had some good things. We're going to jump into massive spoilers right now. So obviously, just letting you know, we got some big things that we needed to see that were inevitable that we were going to get from this show. We got Jadis's death. We got a return of a character that I was so shocked about. I had no idea he was going to be in the show. I'm talking about Father Gabriel. We got that. We got some plot point resolutions. We got the proposal between Rick and Michonne. Like, there's really on page so much to love about this episode. But I didn't like it that much. And I don't know exactly why, because again, on paper, a lot worked there. I think it had a lot to do with the pacing. And this episode to me solidified that they really desperately could have used another additional episode or two. Something there just I don't know. You could probably tell by the way I'm recording this, I'm very conflicted.
I never know how to transition to these shots. I don't film out in public ever. But does this look familiar? Because if it doesn't, it really should. Let me show you. So I came all the way to Hamilton Park, which wasn't really all the way. It was actually not far at all from where I'm at. It's crazy. But I came only here just to show you all the comments you guys have been giving me on today's video about the non-spoiler review. You know, I thought I was alone, but I guess not. Some of you are in the same boat, some aren't. This is crazy. But I don't know. I was thinking about it on the way here. This episode really felt more like the Fear the Walking Dead episodes that we got. It didn't feel like anything we've seen, and I think that's part of the problem. But this is crazy. This is like really nuts to me. That's not Philly. That's Jersey City. Movie magic.
Let's give a quick synopsis, I guess, of how it went. This episode starts off immediately following the events of episode 4, which was one of my favorite episodes of The Walking Dead. Following that, they are arriving into Wyoming. By they, I mean Rick and Michonne. They're arriving into Wyoming, and they have like a whole honeymoon sort of thing. That's at least what it feels like, where they're just traveling around through Wyoming, having fun, going from building to building. We get a really cool scene where Rick looks at the nameplates of the license plates and sees Junior, and he questions if he should give that to RJ when they return and all of that stuff. That was cool. And then we saw Rick break off the Michelle for a Michonne. That was fun. We got some cool callbacks to like the tube of toothpaste thing that was from like way earlier in The Walking Dead. So I like that we got mentions of things like that. It felt very nice to see. What I didn't necessarily like was just, again, the pacing. I don't think it really worked with this storytelling. The thing we got with Jadis, where it was so conflicted on the back and forth, I don't think it worked. I just don't. And I guess let's start from the very beginning, because right off the bat, we get the return of Father Gabriel? What? Like, genuinely shocked. And I think everyone was, because none of us saw that coming. Obviously, we heard some rumblings very early on that there might have been a spin-off in plans with Father Gabriel and Aaron's character, Ross Marquand. So, like, we heard that, but obviously we never thought that meant that we were going to see Father G in the show. Seeing him was exciting. And at first, I was like, oh, he's wearing the hood. Like, oh, this is him. What? I'm so confused. Like, that was that person. That was that mystery person. But obviously it was Jadis. I'm glad I got that right later. But it was just, they played with our emotions there a little bit. And I like that we didn't expect it coming. But as soon as we saw Father G, it's like, oh, we're in for a fucking story. But we didn't get that story. We got a different story. And okay, I get it. I get what they were going for. And in the episode Insider, we see Scott Gimple talk about how Father G was, I guess, a vessel for a different side of Jadis that we didn't see before. And I actually do understand that. So again, like, even with them doing what they did, I understand it. Actually, I think it makes perfect sense. I think they executed it in a good way. I just thought there was too much of a back and forth with this, and it didn't really feel ultimately believable. Like, a lot of their conversations between Jadis and Father G in this episode with those flashbacks were very, like, one-sided, and we didn't get really any answers. And he's talking about how, which I'm not understanding the timeline, and sorry, I just kicked my whole desk here, but I'm not understanding necessarily the whole timeline with the whole Alexandria was starving stuff. So, I don't know. Sorry guys, if this isn't that entertaining of a review here, but seriously, they tried to do too much in this episode with the whole back and forth. Like, Father G apparently was visiting Anne, or Anne was visiting Jadis, whatever. They were visiting each other for years, but like, he never really got in deep with the questions or anything. And I understand that Jadis couldn't mention Rick and all of that, but they just felt like very, very surface level, not deep conversations that made me question why we saw them. Obviously, I understand it was to drive the plot point forward, especially when it comes to the whole development of Jadis's character. But like, this is classic Walking Dead that I hate. Like, this is stuff that I don't like. When they try to like give some sort of redemption arc to a character that obviously we've seen Jadis be conflicting the entire run of her show, and that's what we got in this show already. So look, I do understand that genuinely. I get it, but it just felt forced. It felt rushed. And when we're supposed to be getting a really good cameo with Father Gabriel, which is something I really, really wanted to see, and on paper it should have worked better, I don't like what we got there. I don't really care for it. And then at the end, and I'm jumping around a lot, because ultimately what this episode, if I'm not going to give a full synopsis actually, this episode really solely was Jadis finding Rick and Michonne, and then getting in the rift, and Jadis deciding she has to kill Rick and Michonne, but she doesn't kill Rick and Michonne, but she tries to kill Rick and Michonne, but she does. Like, that's what this episode was, mixed in with flashbacks of Father Gabriel, which is fine, I guess, but like, it just didn't work. I get what they were going for, and I wanted to like this one so much because of everything that they gave. But I just didn't, and I can't fully pinpoint why, and this probably makes this review hard and relatively shitty to watch, and I apologize if that's the case. But my feelings aren't fully developed, and I want to get this out before I do more of a full in-depth thought. This one is going to require so much more, and I'm not done. I still have more I want to talk about, but I'm just prefacing all of that by saying, I understand this review is probably different than the rest of mine. This is the hardest one I have to review. I'm so mixed on it. Maybe this is one that I will like more as it ages and more as we see episode 6. But right now I'm not seeing Endgame, and I see how it sets up the end of this season or series or whatever, but like, also, I don't. Rick's going to go back and get this echelon briefing, but how? Didn't a reclamation team go out and like recover the helicopter and say that everyone... I'm not understanding this. Like, it actually, to me, it doesn't make sense. And I feel like for at least the first 4 episodes, it was like they had such a solid foundation. And yes, the pacing was quick. This episode felt like it ruined that for me. Even what we got with the whole reclamation thing where she left the file or the dossier on Alexandria in her apartment. I don't know. I don't know. I need to rewatch this episode before I give some more in-depth thoughts on this, because now we are in Endgame territory, like I mentioned, and Rick's going to go back. He's going to get the echelon briefing. They're going to recover the dossier on Alexandria and all of that stuff. And they're obviously, like, I think where this is going, I think it's kind of predictable. To me, it seems like they are going to be doing an Inglourious Bastard Shoshana style scene. Like, I feel like they're kind of giving off that vibe with the way they've been showing all the promo material with the fire, and I get that it also references Rick's dreams with Michonne and all of that stuff, but like I feel like with the promo material being fire related and the summit, and they're all in like a movie theater sort of thing, this is giving hardcore Shoshana vibes from Inglourious Bastards. I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. Like, I won't. I'm sure it's going to be awesome on screen and all of that stuff, but it's very clear that they're setting up a storyline like that or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure this next episode is going to be crazy and all of that stuff. I'm just really uncertain with how this ties into everything else. And I don't think they would have showed some of the shots that we got with Father Gabriel and like the A thing and all of that stuff. I don't think we would have got all that if it didn't possibly lead to a reunion in the next episode. But honestly, who knows? I think this show has done a very good job, at least, of kind of giving us things we want in a way we didn't expect. And I could see them going in that direction, but possibly in a different way. So guys, like on one hand, everything on paper that we got in this episode was just very strong, but I didn't really like it. Like the people, the looters and all of that stuff, that as soon as Rick and them gave the food to them, they pulled the guns out, and then later they came in the story to team up with Anne just to die, like very cliched Walking Dead. Jadis's death, which, like, to me, I've always been a relatively big fan of what Jadis did for the AMC Walking Dead story, even though I never liked Jadis. You're not supposed to like Jadis, but, like, you also understand there's humanity there, but I don't like her death scene where it was a whole speech, and then it just felt like classic Walking Dead. Like, dude, a fucking zombie bit the girl's neck, and she was clearly gushing from the fucking jugular. Like, you're not going to be having like a 40-minute speech while that's all going on. And I get from a story perspective why they did that and all of that stuff, but it was just too convenient. I just didn't like it. Like I think they could have done that a little bit differently. I mean, of course, I liked some of the stuff that we got with the Michonne dilemma and all of that, where Michonne was like, I see that we can't just go back now and all of that. I'm glad it wasn't just like Michonne's like, oh, never mind. I'm glad they actually have like a purpose and a meaning for that. But guys, we only have one episode left. How are they going to tie this story up with a potential reunion with just one episode left, like one mini movie? I don't know how they're going to do it. Then again, this episode to me felt extremely rushed, as did some of the others in this season, like with the pacing and all that, but I didn't complain about it as much then. This one, I just felt like fell victim to that a little bit more, because it could have used an extra episode or two to develop this story. I just don't see how they're wrapping this up. And now Father G being back, and I know a lot of that was flashback, but it left a decent amount on the table with him, like, and her not returning and all that stuff. I don't know where that's going to lead to the story. I don't understand the timeline. He was talking about Alexandria needing help and that they were desperate, but like, can someone clear that part up in the comments with me? Was Commonwealth in the story at this point when he was saying they were suffering and needed food, or was this in the Whisperer arc? Like, when was this? Also, why? Like, how did Jadis come back around and explain that? This left me with so many more questions than answers. I'm going to have to do a part 2 to this video. So I'm sorry if this isn't the review that you guys were expecting from me for what I usually do on this channel, but I don't know how to cover this one. I don't. Like, I loved on paper the stuff they gave us, and I think it was satisfying, like Jadis' death and what it meant for the story and her essentially giving away the dossier to them and all of that stuff. I like what it brings to the story. I like that her ask was to, like, not fuck up the CRM because what they were doing. Like, I see her side, and I also understand that they need to give Rick this echelon briefing, and I want them to, because I think it's going to open up stuff in terms of the potential Walking Dead future. So I'm looking forward to that, but like, I don't know. Just everything on paper should have worked. Father G coming back into the story should have worked. It didn't. My enjoyment level for this episode was at the lowest of the series, and I don't know. Like, I'm so mixed. I need to rewatch this episode, but I wanted to get this out to you guys first.
Now that we're going into the finale, I guess technically series finale of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, I want to know your thoughts down in the comments. Did you like this episode? Did you hate this episode? Seems like this one is going to be the most divided. People are saying it's like Fear the Walking Dead online. I kind of agree with that sentiment. I don't know, but I definitely want to hear from you. So with that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out. This is not Philadelphia, and who stands on tables? I don't know. This is weird. This is the park. This is the park. This is the park. This is the park.